Today, we are talking about the real way to achieve immortality as we take a look at an ancient banned book that talks about how to become immortal, as well as we look at recent modern technological developments. Specifically, we're going to be taking a look at Ray Kurzweil, who's a former Google engineer who has had an 86% success rate with predicting the future, who says that humanity will achieve immortality in 8 years. So we're taking a look at that, as well as ideas like transhumanism. So we're taking a look at the idea of ancient knowledge that talks about immortality, as well as modern technology that is developing that promises immortality. And we're going to take a look at it all within the lens of Metarationalism, which says that we can understand metaphysics rationally, because when we talk about things like transhumanism and modern developments, people tend to neglect the idea of the soul, or the spiritual or metaphysical element of existence, the mental element of existence. And this is why we're also going to be taking a look at this banned ancient knowledge that talks about immortality, that's from the exact opposite end of the spectrum, that looks at it from the perspective of the soul, the eternal soul. And then we're going to take a look at the synthesis of the two and see what happens when humanity begins to realize that we aren't just material bodies, but that we are metaphysical entities as well, and see if there's an intersection between technology and the metaphysical. It's going to be good. This is going to be an excellent video. You don't want to miss it. Now, before we get started, please, as always, like and subscribe. Reminder that there's a lot of scams in the comments, people pretending to be me, saying to join my WhatsApp or Telegram. Don't fall for it. It's a scam. Also, there are people in groups out there who don't want our message to get out, and they are spreading a lot of misinformation and disinformation. So be smart, be on the lookout, don't fall for that BS. All right, here we go. Let's begin. Oh, one last thing. If you enjoy my work, support over on Patreon, and you'll get access to our members-only videos, or you can do it by being tier 2 or higher on YouTube by hitting the join button. You get access to all our members-only videos, and we're having a members-only video right after this. It is about reincarnation, called Will You Reincarnate on Earth Again? As we ask the question, when you pass, will you incarnate on Earth or another planet or another dimension, or not incarnate at all? It's going to be good. So you can support over on Patreon. Just look up MorgueOfficial there, or tier 2 or higher on YouTube by hitting the join button below this video. All right, so let's begin. As I said, this is a very interesting video. We're taking a look at ancient banned knowledge as well as technology. We're going to be taking a look at different perspectives of immortality and ask the question, how does one achieve it? And if there is a synthesis of the two when humanity begins to realize that we are more than just technological machines. So to start off, we're going to take a look at this article. And it says humans will achieve immortality in 8 years, says former Google engineer who has predicted the future with 86% accuracy. So a former Google engineer has made a stark realization that humans will achieve immortality in 8 years. And 86% of his 147 predictions have been correct. So this is very interesting. This is not just some, random person. This is a highly intelligent individual, the ex-Google engineer, and many of his predictions about technological developments have been correct. 86% success rate is a very good success rate. So Ray Kurzweil spoke with a YouTube channel discussing the expansion in genetics, nanotechnology, and robotics, which he believes will lead to age-reversing nanobots. So these tiny robots would repair damaged cells and tissues that deteriorate as the body ages and makes us immune to disease like cancer. The predictions that such a feat is achievable by 2030. So he thinks that it's possible this could happen by the year 2030. Has been met with both excitement and skepticism, as curing all deadly diseases seems far out of reach. So the question is, who is this person if you're not familiar with who this person is? Kurzweil was hired in Google, and he made various predictions. Let's see here. So on another, and there's a little more about this person I just want to read real quick. Yeah, okay, so here's another idea here. So to add to the prediction, a prominent futurist, Dr. Ian Pearson. So here's the other element, okay, that I want to talk about here. So you have basically, and then we're going to get into this band knowledge that comes at it from the spiritual side of things. But I want to set this up with the technological side of things first. So you have this idea of being able to achieve immortality through nanotechnology that would repair cells, etc. Now you have, from another end of the spectrum, a futurist named Dr. Ian Pearson, who thinks that it's going to be possible to basically have your consciousness be more and more, higher and higher percentages of your consciousness be uploaded onto technological devices or something like the cloud. And then when you die, you would simply have your consciousness that's on the cloud be uploaded to some android, and you would be able to continue living as this android, as your consciousness had been uploaded to this cloud. So two different perspectives here. You have Ian Pearson talking about nanobot technology, and then you have this other individual, Ian Pearson, talking more about the transhumanist perspective of being able to upload your consciousness in some way or another. Now, here's what we have to say about this. Now, first of all, I just want to answer this question. A question that someone asked in the chat. So Christopher Smith said in the chat earlier today, I wonder what will be the starter for immortality. Will it be affordable? And won't we just get bored of living or find new ways to make newness happen to keep us occupied while we live forever? So this is a really good question. I'm going to answer the first one first, the first half of it first, and then I'm going to answer the second half later, because when Christopher says, will we get bored or are we going to find new ways to keep us occupied, etc., I'm going to answer that later when we talk about the spiritual side of it, which is going to happen in just a moment when we talk about the ancient band knowledge that talks about becoming immortal. So, but first, I just want to answer this real quick. He wants to know, will it be affordable? Well, I think it's very interesting because I believe it was Ray Kurzweil who was actually talking about this. Because Ray Kurzweil is the one who thinks that we'll have nanobot technology by possibly 2030 to live forever, stop aging, cure diseases, etc. And I believe it was him who said that he thinks it will be free. And the reason why he thinks it will be free, or at least very, very affordable, is because, in his opinion, insurance companies, it would be more cost effective for people to be healthy and cured, free of diseases, rather than having to pay for people to go through expensive treatments. I'm not 100% sure if it was him, he who said that, or if it was someone else, but I'm pretty sure it was him, either him or someone else in the field. So there are some people who think it'll be free or highly affordable because insurance companies, it's a great deal for them. I'm skeptical of that. Even if it is a great deal for insurance companies, it definitely seems like something that would be exploited in a monetary, I don't know. I'm not so sure about that, but we'll see. It's a very, very interesting idea. So as far as the other question on will we find new ways to make new things happen, keep us occupied, that's a very interesting idea that we're going to look at right now. Or not right now, but in just a moment, because first, I want to move over to this ancient knowledge. But before we do, with regard to transhumanism, okay? So Ray Kurzweil is talking about nanobot technology to repair cells. Is that possible? Well, I don't know. I'm not the scientist, I'm not an engineer or anything like that. But if it is possible, I think that is a very interesting idea. Now, this is completely different from the transhumanist idea of wanting to upload one's consciousness. Now, this is not possible. The transhumanist idea of uploading consciousness is impossible. Because remember, transhumanists are coming at this from the idea that we are just machines. And if we're nothing more than machines, well, then of course our consciousness is just part of that machine process. And if that machine process can be replicated, well, then we can just have our consciousness somewhere else. There are so many problems with this. This is an incredibly stupid idea. It's a terribly stupid idea for many, many different reasons. One reason why this is a stupid idea is because, look, we are eternal minds, we are eternal souls, we are zetas. We simply use this body as an interface to be able to interact in the physical world. So if you were even to copy the structure of the brain into some, information field that reconstructs it or whatever, it's not copying you, it's copying your physical structure, which is not you at all. It's just your vehicle. It would kind of be like saying, oh, well, if I make a copy of your car, you will still be in it. No, you won't. The car is something that you get in and leave. It's not something that if you make a copy of, there's going to be another you there. It's also kind of like the idea of a VR headset, a virtual reality headset. Your brain is like a virtual reality headset. It lets you, as an eternal mind, a soul, a zeta, experience space-time reality. So if you copy a VR headset, it's not copying your consciousness. Even if you have a character in that video game, if you have a character in that video game and you copy the headset and you copy the game files, you'll still have a character in that game with all the attributes and, you know, levels that it's gained and whatever, but you'll have no consciousness behind it. You won't be in it just because you made a copy of it. So transhumanist theory is a mess because of that. And it's a mess for many, many other reasons as well. Because for one thing, they have a materialist ideology, which they think that the brain is consciousness. So if you're going to upload consciousness, so to speak, what is it that you're uploading? If you're not uploading the brain, if you're taking something from the brain and uploading it somewhere else, well, now you're saying that there's something other than the brain that is consciousness, and that is contrary to materialism, which states that the brain is consciousness. So that's a problem there. Another issue is if you're going to say that you are going to, you know, even if it did, right? Let's say that you're saying, okay, well, we're not literally transferring consciousness. We're just recreating this brain structure, and that recreated brain structure that will have a consciousness. Well, then you're copying. Even if that were true, that's not true. That's not possible. Even if that were true, then that would be a copy of your consciousness, and it would be some other consciousness. It wouldn't be you. It would be like a clone of you, and then you wouldn't achieve immortality. That clone of you would achieve immortality. So anyway, the transhumanist idea of achieving immortality through the uploading or copying of consciousness is so bad for so many reasons. So Ray Kurzweil's idea of having nanotechnology repair cells, etc., is much more probable than the idea of some transhumanist technological way of doing things. But so we see the problem here. We see the metaphysical problem that comes with treating humanity like a machine. But now this is where I want to turn to understanding it from the metaphysical perspective. Because if we take a look at one of my favorite banned gospels, one of my favorite, I wouldn't say it's my absolute favorite. I don't know which one my absolute favorite is. I'd have to think about that, but it's up there. I really like it. The Gospel of Thomas is a banned gospel, and it's the secret teachings of Jesus Christ. And it opens up, I've talked about this a lot before, but I want to talk about it again because it's important for what we're talking about today. It opens up with saying, the very first line, these are the hidden teachings that the living Jesus spoke. And he said, whoever finds the correct interpretation of these sayings will never die. So these are the secret teachings of Jesus. And it says, if you understand these teachings, you will never die. And then the very second line says, these opening lines are incredibly important, says the seeker should not stop until he finds. When he does find, he will be disturbed. After being disturbed, he will be astonished. Then he will reign over everything. Having reigned, he will rest. So it's going to be a secret that's difficult to find. It's going to be one that's disturbing once it's found, then astonishing, then causes one to rule over everything. And so what is this secret? What is this secret? Well, the third line holds the key to this, and the fourth line as well. So the third and the fourth line say, or 3a and 3b, depending on how you want to carve it out, says, Jesus says, if your leaders look to you and say the kingdom is in the sky, then the birds will be there before you. If they say the kingdom is in the sea, then the fish will be there before you. Rather, the kingdom is within you and all around you. And when you understand, yourselves will be understood, and you will realize that you are sons of the living Father. If you do not know yourselves, then you exist in poverty, and you are that poverty. All right, so this is very, very important. So here, look, we're going to take a look at now the metaphysical understanding of immortality, because we just took a look at the technological understanding of immortality, but then we are going to take a look at the fusion of the two, okay? So I've talked about this before, but this is where Jesus is saying that, look, the kingdom of heaven, divinity, is not somewhere in the sky. It's not in the sea. It's not anywhere other than within you and all around you. And when you understand this, you will realize that you are sons of the living Father. And if you don't know, then you're in poverty. Then but you are in riches, metaphorical riches, of the richness of understanding and divinity, having understood what you are. And so there's this idea of realizing that you are divine, that you are eternal. And that's what we talk about constantly. In the Neogenian system, you are an eternal mind. This isn't a physical reality. It is an immaterial reality, a metaphysical reality. And we are eternal minds. We are zetas. And when Jesus says here, that when you find, you'll be disturbed, then astounded, then rule over everything. Well, this is sort of the process that one goes through when waking up, when one begins to realize, wow, I'm divine, I am all, and this reality is just an immaterial reality. Often people are disturbed. This is called the dark night of the soul. This is the part where all your understanding of reality, all the conceptual models of reality that your mind has built to understand reality, falls away. And now your mind is in a state of despair or confusion as it tries to figure out what reality is, but it has no model yet to apply to reality. And this is, known as the dark night of the soul, and often leads to isolation. People think you're weird and you're strange. They don't understand what you're talking about. This makes you feel like you're going crazy. You start to withdraw. You try and find answers, etc. So there's this idea of being disturbed as you don't know what's going on. You don't know what you are. You don't know where you are. You don't know why you're here. But then comes the element where you are astonished when all the things start to fall into place. You realize, okay, I'm starting to get it now. This isn't a physical reality. This is a mental reality. I'm not just physical. I am an eternal being. This reality is a reality that we have all created. We have created this together. This is an experience that we are having together and co-creating. It's our world. It's our domain. It's our universe. It's our world. It's our reality. You come to start to understand this. And then it says, having understood, then he will reign over everything. And this is, of course, the perspective of the absolute perspective, where you realize that we are the all, and this is our creation and our world, and we have command over it. And so you see that these stages are sort of like the three stages that we have in the Neogenian system in hyper-awareness, the triadic modes of consciousness, the three perspectives of the avatar perspective, the Zetic perspective, and the absolute perspective. You have the avatar perspective, which is just you as a human in a body. And then you have the Zetic perspective, which is you as an eternal mind that is eternal and limitless and has existed across many different lifetimes and are eternal, the eternal perspective. And then you have the absolute perspective, which is us as a collective, as all reality, experiencing ourselves through a multiplicity of minds, a multiplicity of souls, a multiplicity of viewpoints. So these three perspectives, you have basically like the ego self, which is you as an avatar, your particular life that you have right now. Your eternal self, which is you as a zeta, a Zetic mind. You've lived across many different lifetimes. You are eternal. You've always existed and always will exist. And then the collective self, which is the absolute perspective, which is us as a collective, understood that we are an interconnected, singular, unified system that is experiencing itself in a multiplicity of viewpoints. So you have the ego self, the eternal self, and the collective self, which is the avatar perspective, the Zetic perspective, and the absolute perspective. So you have this realizing. So the idea here is that to achieve immortality, to achieve being eternal, is to realize that you already are. So you see, this is a huge difference now coming from the metaphysical perspective than coming from the physicalist perspective. Coming from the physicalist perspective, it's like, okay, let's create nanobot technology and repair the body. Or let's create transhumanism, which is impossible, can't work. Transhumanism cannot work as defined in the way that people are currently defining it, at least. And then you have from the metaphysical side of things, where it's, hey, guess what? You are already immortal. You have just chosen to experience the illusion of being mortal. But as soon as you realize that you are immortal, you achieve immortality because you realize it and you know it and you are it and you are everything. And this is where we come from the spiritual side, which is completely different. And it's sort of like lives and deaths are like days and nights. And if you only thought you had one day to live, well, you'd only think you'd have one day to live. But once you realized, oh, wait, I have many days to live. It's just days and nights. Well, it's sort of a similar thing going on here, where you realize that you are immortal. And when you make that realization, then you realize that immortality is not something to be achieved. It's a state of mind because you are already immortal. You just have to realize it. It's like playing a video game and realizing that you are the gamer behind the headset, not the actual character. Now, that being said, you of course want to keep your body healthy and you want to be safe, right? That's very, very important to keep your avatar healthy, to be safe, to take care of yourself, because this is our vehicle for experiencing the physical domain and what allows us to learn, grow, and understand. And we want to make sure that we are healthy. That's very important. But there is this difference here of understanding that we are already immortal and this world is ours to transform, shape, and control. Now, hold on though, because I want to take a look at this from the perspective of synthesizing the two and our possible futures. Because remember, so in the Neogenian system, we want to create a new beginning. That's what the Neogenian is. The Neogenian is the new beginning. We want a new beginning, a new earth through a new consciousness. And through Metarationalism, we understand that we can understand the metaphysical rationally. Just like science understands the physical world in a rational way, it's technically an empirical way, but they apply rational methods to it. We want to understand metaphysics in a rationalist way. That's what Metarationalism is all about, by applying mathematics and reason and philosophy to the metaphysical domain. So we can map it out with extreme rigor and have a new science for a new world. Science of the soul, science of the mind, a Zedic science. So here's the idea. Right now, we have the technology being developed with the idea of the body in mind. But when humanity enters into a hyper-aware state, we can start to build hyper-aware technology. And what is hyper-aware technology? That is technology built with the understanding that we are eternal minds, where we understand metarationalism, and therefore we can create technology that interacts with the metaphysical. Just like right now we have technology that interacts with the physical, we can create technology geared towards interacting with the metaphysical. And that is, of course, possible. Why is that possible? It's because we exist in a mathematical reality. This is a mathematical reality. And a reality of frequencies, a reality of energy, is a mathematical reality. Frequency is a mathematical concept. It's a wholly, totally, completely mathematical concept when looked at from the point of view of energy relating to itself rather than the physical domain. So, understanding it from this perspective, and this is where it gets really interesting and where we apply metarationalism to this, is that we understand that the metaphysical domain or the spiritual domain or the domain of mind is a frequency domain, and the physical domain is a space-time domain. Now, mathematically speaking, these domains can interact with each other. Now, why can these domains interact with each other? Because there's something known as a Fourier transform in mathematics. So when it comes to the mathematics of waveforms, Fourier mathematics is extremely important, and it's in everything. It's from radio signals to music to computer processing to Wi-Fi, almost everything you can possibly think of. Image processing, almost everything you can think of uses Fourier mathematics. And Fourier mathematics is just about expressing frequency information in different ways. So frequency information can be represented as space-time information. So what does this mean? It means, in a nutshell, that so we see reality in the metaphysical domain, the domain of mind, the spiritual domain, as being a domain of frequencies. Now, these frequencies, we know via Fourier mathematics, can be expressed or projected as space-time information, meaning that frequencies can be represented as space-time information, meaning that the physical reality is just a particular expression or way of looking at the metaphysical reality. And a really easy way to understand this is kind of like water and ice. If you think of water as mind, and then ice being like the physical world, you see that water can be transformed into ice, and ice can be transformed into water just by varying its internal structure. So same thing with frequencies in a kind of similar way. It's a projection. Frequencies can be represented as matter. And if this sounds confusing, you experience it every single time you go to sleep and dream at night. When you go to sleep and dream at night, your mind is projected as a dimensional world that you can explore. Same thing is happening here. Now, the reason why I'm talking about this is because since everything is mathematics and space-time and frequencies can interact via Fourier transforms, they interact in a very special way, of course, we can develop technology for understanding this interaction. And this is why it's really important why we want to have a shift in consciousness, because with a shift in consciousness, so much changes. We have so many more opportunities for us. Think about when humanity became self-aware. When humanity became self-aware, it was able to develop new technologies and cities and governments, etc. Before humanity had self-awareness, things were very basic and very primitive. Humanity became self-aware. They began working together. They created nations. They created technologies. They created rockets, etc. When humanity becomes hyper-aware and achieves the all-awareness and understands our interconnectedness and our metaphysical nature and embraces Metarationalism, then we will be able to establish a worldwide planetary civilization that is a teleocratic society and a purposeful society. But not only that, but we will be able to develop hyper-aware technology that is created with the understanding of what we are and the understanding of the metaphysical or frequency domain aspect of existence. So with that in mind, the reason why I bring this up is because then when we take a look at technology and transhumanism, instead of trying to upload consciousness, which is impossible, instead you will be looking at ways how to interact with the spiritual or metaphysical or mental or frequency aspect of reality. Now, there are multiple ways that this could occur, but let me just give you a couple. One way is if there could be particular augmentations in the brain that allows one to tune to different domains of existence. So the brain acts as a filtering system, and the brain right now is basically binary. It allows you to tune to your own personal frequencies, that is your dream world when you go to sleep, and then this physical domain, the domain that we interact with when we are awake. So it's like a radio that can only turn to 2 stations, or a TV that only has 2 channels. But by perhaps adding certain augmentations to the brain and understanding how the frequency functions of reality works, we can develop the ability to tune to different domains, experience different dimensions of existence. And we already kind of get glimpses of this when perhaps someone is in a very deep meditative state or does psychedelics. You can get glimpses of other dimensions, other domains, the frequency domain, etc. Now remember, don't do anything dangerous, don't do anything illegal, but I mention it here for completeness' sake. Now, going even further than this, because I want to talk a little bit about technology, and we talked about transhumanism, etc. But there's a very, very interesting idea of humanity may get to the point, right, where let's say that they can develop new avatars for us as Zetic minds to be able to link to, because we're all eternal minds, we're all Zetas. We link to bodies to be able to experience the space-time domain. If we start developing hyper-aware technology and we understand how Zetic minds work and the frequency domain works, we could perhaps develop new avatars for Zetas to link to rather than human bodies. Now, whether this is a good thing or not a good thing, that's up for debate, and what form that will take, who knows. But there's this idea then of, because death is really about allowing us to experience the death current and to basically go over all the data that we've accrued during this lifetime, and then be born again and have a new lifetime and accrue more data and have more experiences, etc. And so there's this process of growth. Well, if we could perhaps build avatars that have a death function instead of dying. Because look, here's the thing. We don't want to just live forever. Just living forever in an avatar without any kind of death process, there's problems that could arise from that. there's a lot of issues that could arise from that. You know, you think about some people who are just extremely, say, stubborn and set in their ways. Very, very stubborn, very set in their ways. Well, death allows for one to disconnect from this body. The mind can go into the death current and have a life review and go over all the different things it learned, etc., all the mistakes, all the good things, and then be born in a new avatar and be able to start fresh without all those stubborn, perhaps negative habits that it had accrued. So you can imagine if someone was just stuck in the same avatar, they could just be an asshole for their entire eternal immortality, and that's not good. So death serves a function. So we don't want the transhumanist idea where we're just sort of stuck in this mentality the whole time. However, it may be the case that we could develop, let's say, a certain type of avatar that has installed in it a death function where it allows us to experience and go through the process of death, but then allows us to localize within the same avatar again. Now, of course, this is totally at a point high into the future, so we'll probably be able to change our avatars or whatnot. But what I mean by that is maybe even not the same avatar, maybe another avatar. But the point is, we in such a way where we wouldn't have to waste time going through a redundant process like being a baby and being a toddler and learning how to speak and learning how to write and learning how to do math and all that. We wouldn't have to, because there's a lot of redundancy with birth and development, etc. There's a lot of it's great for being able to reset and start again, but there is a lot of loss of progress. There is a lot of waste of time. So it's possible that at some point we'll be able to develop avatars that have a death function that serves the process of death, but where we can then, you know, reap all the benefits of that and then sort of return to it. It's kind of like how if you were playing a video game, when you got tired of the game, you could, hey, this is what it's like, all right? Let's say reality is like a VR game. Right now, you don't know it's a VR game. You think it's real. You play the VR game for a while, and then you die, and you start all over again as a new character, and you forget everything that happened. And you just do that again and again and again. What I'm talking about is kind of like technology that could be developed where it allows you, playing the VR game, to take a break. You could take the VR headset off, take it, put it aside. Now you are in the immaterial domain. You are, pure mind, pure zeta, exploring everything there in the death current, doing all the activities and learning and growing and exploring that one does and resting that one does do in that domain. And then when one wants to, can return back and go through, experience that again. So what exactly all this will look like and how it will develop and the pros and cons to it, I don't know. That's in the future. But what I'm saying is this idea of, you kind of have these two ideas of one, just like, oh, let's upload our consciousness or whatever and just live in this single egoic self forever. And there's a lot of problems like that. Like I mentioned, like someone now you're just a stubborn asshole for all eternity or something along those lines. And then you have the other aspect where it's like, okay, well, we are immortal, we are eternal as far as being eternal Zedic minds. And once you make that realization, you are. And it's true. You are, and we are immortal. We're just having this finite experience. The only negative aspect here comes with the particular body that we have is very clunky. It was evolved over billions of years by evolution. It's not geared towards happiness. It's not geared towards telling you the truth. It's just geared towards you surviving in a very primal animalistic world. And there's a lot of issues, a lot of problems with it. So while we know that we are immortal and eternal, we still have this very clunky technology that's not the best. So the ideal would be to have a hyper-aware humanity where hyper-aware technology is created. And however form that takes, I'm not an engineer, I'm not a scientist, I'm not any of those things that would know how that would operate with regard to this, but we would be able to develop technology with the understanding that reality is a frequency domain and thus create better experiences for ourselves by having an understanding of what we truly are and being able to interact and explore our world in a way where technology is allowing us to reap the benefits and have the full expression of our eternal selves rather than I mean, just look how difficult it is for people to even realize that we are eternal or immortal. Imagine having, some kind of avatar where you could just go, oh, look, and you push a button or select it on your app, and then you're disconnected and you can experience the frequency domain and everything there. And then you could come back and go, oh, wow, that's amazing. I mean, you can kind of do that with DMT. But you know what I mean. A much more controlled way of doing it, a much more, a way of doing it that's much more consciously controlled. Again, remember, don't do anything dangerous or illegal, but you get what I'm saying. So the truth is, we are already immortal. We are already eternal. And we're having this experience because we have chosen to have this experience. And to end this here, I just want to talk about what Christopher asked. Christopher said, I wonder what it will be like. Will we get bored of living or find new ways to make newness happen to keep us occupied? Well, that's exactly what this reality is. This reality is what we created to keep ourselves occupied. We didn't do it consciously. We wiped our memories. So at the end of time, when we have experienced everything, remember, we are eternal. So at a certain point, we will have done everything there is to do. We are eternal minds. We are zetas. We are eternity incarnate. And discarnate. We are all things. And so at a certain point, we will have experienced everything there is to experience in every way there is to experience it. And we will be bored. And because of that, we will shatter ourselves and start afresh and again and in a new reality. So everything that we're experiencing right now, this is happening essentially, because we're bored. Now, there's a lot of other ways to think about it, but that's one way to think about it. We created these worlds of experiences, these constantly transforming and changing and altering modes of being to be able to cure our boredom or our loneliness, because now we are experiencing each other in this grand world. And as soon as everyone realizes it, and that's the whole point of what we want to do, as far as creating a new beginning, is for humanity to realize, hey, look, we're here to basically enjoy ourselves. Are we doing a lot of that? Are we doing a lot of enjoyment? Nah, not really. There's kind of a lot of death and killing and hating going on. That's not what we want to do. Really, it's very, very basic. And humanity has had thousands of years to realize it. Time's up. It's time for a new beginning now. What's life about? It's to enjoy it. Now, it's not just to enjoy it. It's about to learn and grow and understand. Because as we learn and grow and understand, we can create more beautiful modes of being and experiencing together. So you have this feedback loop of enjoying life and experiencing it, and then growing and learning and understanding, and to be able to create more harmonious, more synchronistic modes of being. We are gods. Ultimately, what do gods do? Gods create, gods transform, and gods enjoy their creation. That's why they created it in the first place. So let's start that new world. Let's start that new beginning right now as Neogenians. If you enjoyed this, my friends, I have a lot more videos. Check it out. If you want to know about the Gospel of Thomas, I have a whole playlist on my channel where I go over the Gospel of Thomas in detail, every single line, and check it out. There's a couple of videos on the Gospel of Thomas there. I want to give a big shout out to everyone who supports on Patreon, especially, let's see, Renaissance Fairy, Cassidy, Angela, Fairies of Venus, DB, William, Enki, Nusalina, Jose, and everyone else. Thank you very much. We're having a members-only video right now called Will You Reincarnate on Earth Again? As we explore the idea of reincarnation and if it will be Earth, another planet, some other dimension, or not incarnating at all. That's what we're talking about. You can support by going to the link right here on Patreon or subscribing on YouTube on Tier 2 or higher. Thank you very much.